guys, what's going on? Welcome back to another episode of A Great Conversation here on Nerds in Suits. Today, our guest is none other than the android himself, Marc Andreyko, somebody I'm proud to call my friend, a very talented comic book writer, a very talented screenwriter, and obviously sort of like my arch nemesis in the movie trivia Schmoedown. Marc's a sweetheart. He's very honest and tells a lot of great stories about his life. We had to do this in two halves. We had kind of a shoddy internet connection that was preventing us, so I change outfits in the middle here, which is pretty funny. But it's a great interview. I really appreciate Marc doing this, so a big time thanks to him for showing up. A huge thank you to all of our Infinity patrons in the Nerd Network. That is John Patterson, Nicole Krafik, Lucas Shashek, Brienne Chandler, and of course, Jake Yakavetta. Guys, thank you so much for your support. Remember, check out patreon.com/nerdsinsuits if you guys are interested in seeing all of the fun rewards that we have available. And of course, if you are a patron at any other level, platinum or above, you will hear your name or see your name in the credits at the end of the episode. So thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for listening. Be sure to hit that like button right now, first thing. And of course, leave a comment when the video is over. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the interview and have a wonderful day.
Well, since this all started, I've watched every match, and I've been able to
the whole league or his?
Yes, no, the whole league. I've watched everything except the Inner Geekdom stuff because I don't care. And it's just some of the stuff is just too. I don't care about what Elf number 6 was wearing on his left foot in the cutscene. Right. That's a different kind of knowledge. That's not trivia. That's like research. That's the whole thing about Inner Geekdom is a whole different skill set. And if I don't learn that stuff naturally from my own enthusiasm for a movie, I'm not going to do it because I'm going to study something. I'm going to study, something like forensic psychology, something that could be useful.
Science or something.
I'm not going to study the mise en scène of The Sandlot.
Yeah, well, I definitely think that I've considered before, because I'm obsessive compulsive when it comes to the Schmoedown. I've considered before that I want to win every belt by the time I'm done, and I've thought about the fact that IG, the reality of winning that belt, and nope, it's just I'm not going to do that to my life. I won't do that to my life.
If we can get a horror league up and running, I'm torn because I don't know if I want to compete in it or want to be one of the regular guys and write the questions. I think it would probably end up just being writing the questions and stuff because I would love to, when we're back in the studio, when we tape horror ones, decorate the set and have stuff like that. But I mean, I don't begrudge anyone IG. It's just the movies in that I just don't love enough to devote that kind of time to it. And I already have a hard time, I think, you probably experienced this too. It's so nice when you go to a movie and you're an audience member and you're not watching it, criticizing it or and I don't go to movies for that reason, but I just naturally, that's the go-to, that's our instinct. So when you see a movie or something that is just immerses you and you're just a fan of, I don't want to research the fun out of it. I don't want to, just overanalyze it,
I totally agree. I mean, so you and I were trying to come up with this. We're failing at it right now. I'm failing at it. This project to send.
You failed at it. Yeah.
I don't know how you managed to send me 3 movies right off the bat. I guess you just knew I hadn't seen those. Is that what happened?
I knew a clue because you had said that when I did Call Industries, and then the other two I just thought, well, these would be interesting, because I figure the first couple of rounds we do stuff that is Schmoedown adjacent and stuff that is related, and then we can go, when we get further, we can go deeper dives into movies that might never be something in Schmoedown, but movies that I think you should see or you think I should see. And we have such completely different tastes. It's going to be really interesting. So
I've suggested a few now, and I've been striking. The only one I've got you on so far is The Weatherman, which is well documented as one of my favorites. Thing is, all the movies I can think of that I'm like, oh, Marc definitely hasn't seen this, or just bad movies that I love.
That's okay.
That's okay. Movies that are actively bad that I just happen to love.
Give me a for instance of an actively bad movie.
For instance, I love Almost Heroes with Matthew Perry and Chris Farley. It was Chris Farley's last movie. And
I know what it is. Yeah,
people hate that movie.
I love Dirty Grandpa. I think Dirty Grandpa is funnier than the Hangover movies. I think it's a better movie. I think it's got more heart. I think there was one critic when that movie came out that said this is why the Holocaust happened. And I'm like, calm down. It's not called Jane Austen's Dirty Grandpa. It's called Dirty Grandpa, and it's R-rated. It is hilarious. I would make. Have you watched Tu Wong Fu? Thanks for Everything, Julie Newmar?
I have, because I'm obsessed with Patrick Swayze, and he's a legend in my eyes.
If I was ever famous and I was going to be on, what's it called, Lip Sync Battle, I would do that
Yeah.
opening Salt and Pepper song for my lip sync
Okay.
battle and do full
Yeah.
Vita Bohem drag, just because that's that movie is so much fun. That movie has aged beautifully. I watched it the other night, and it's the best performance by all three of those men by
I probably haven't
far.
seen it since high school. I would think.
Oh, it's really funny. It's really, I mean, it's the Rainmaker, it's the Music Man, it's that, somebody from
Yeah.
out of town saves a small town, but the cast is killer. It's so weird though that both Chris Penn and Patrick Swayze are gone
Swayze.
now. Just
Yeah, Swayze, what an interesting career he had, because by the time he did Tu Wong Fu, he was already like not a star anymore. He was like in that like people knew who he was, but he wasn't making hits. Like I think, unless I'm mistaken, I think Tu Wong Fu was like 95. That sounds about right.
Yes, it was like March or April of 95.
And like he made Point Break in 91, which is my favorite Swayze movie, and it's
and
fucking great.
Then he made Next of Kin.
That's before that. No, he made all that shit before. So he made
Next
Roadhouse,
of Kin was
Next
before
of Kin.
Point Break.
Yeah, Ghost. He made Tiger
Warsaw,
The Outsider, Red Dawn. All that shit is before Point Break. So he makes Point Break 91, and then like there's like a movie called like City of Hope, I think, or like City of
God. City of God. No.
He's not in City of God.
But he's a doctor in like Indonesia or something.
Exactly. It's called City of Hope, I think. It's either that or City of Joy, but it was one or the other. And then he's
City
in
of Joy. It's City of Joy because City of Hope is the cancer hospital.
Okay, yeah. So he does that.
City of Joy.
It's like an Oscar thing. It doesn't really do anything. Then he's in like Tall Tale, a few other movies, but it's just weird how his career after 91, it just totally goes off a cliff. And that movie, Tu Wong Fu, is kind of the only thing in the 90s that he did that was really of significance after Point Break. Almost everything else is just a flop.
Yeah.
And you couldn't believe it either, because if you would think coming off of Ghost and Point Break back-to-back movies, that guy was going to be like the biggest star of the 90s.
And then after Wong Fu, the next thing he did of note was Donnie Darko.
Yeah, totally.
And then after that, he was dead.
Yeah, very sad.
I mean, he did that that TV show and stuff. But he was he's a really complicated guy as well. I know some people that knew him, and there's a lot his life story. His mother was incredibly abusive to him. Incredibly abusive. I think his father was an alcoholic who died early.
I read his biography. I think that all sounds about right.
Yeah, and he loved his mother, but his mother was that dance cliche that, faster. Right. And who knows what her backstory was. So there's a whole lot of interesting stuff there. A friend of mine worked on a movie he did with Melanie Griffith, and they had a real hard time with him because, he was drinking a lot, and they had to forbid the PAs from being alone with him.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Huh. I've never heard that stuff before. Wild. Well,
but he's also. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so we're talking about, he's one of the heartthrobs. So were you in 1991? Were you already like openly with friends and family talking about dudes being hot, or was that not a thing that was happening yet at that point?
No, I mean with certain people, but it wasn't like I was out to my family because I justified that by I wasn't dating anyone, so I wasn't hiding anything, But
what year did you come out?
That's a sliding scale question.
Okay, sure.
To my parents, it wasn't officially until Matthew Shepard was killed.
Okay, so what year was that?
98. It was the fall of 98, spring of 98. It was cold when he was murdered, so it was either late early spring or late fall. And I just got to the
again?
Ohio, from Cleveland.
From Cleveland. Okay, that's right. Interesting. Was that moment like you remember it happened and you were like, flick of a switch, I'm telling my parents?
Yeah, I saw that happen and I thought, you know what, this is bullshit. I've had a really great life, a Norman Rockwell life. I grew up, my neighborhood was undeveloped for my childhood, so you could go outside and play all day and come back when the streetlights came on, all that sort of idealized stuff. My parents have always been 100% supportive of everything I've done, even when I was a little kid and I was like, I think I want to go to a theater school. I got good grades. They've always said, even since I was little, do what you're passionate about, what makes you happy. Don't do something for us because you're going to be doing it hopefully long after we're dead. So, and I didn't realize that wasn't the norm until I was an adult. That was just my life. So, but I got to the point where I was like, this kid got beaten to death for being who he was and suffered imaginably. And visibility matters. And even though I was sure they knew, it had never been said. So I felt like I couldn't live in my own hypocrisy anymore. I was like, this can't happen. If I can't get the courage to do this, I'm not a good person, because I've always been straight white adjacent by growing up in Ohio. So I haven't had a lot of struggle and strife as a gay man. And I just thought, I have to do this. It's something I have to do. And I met his mother at a book signing, and it was I just stood there and cried. It's just like this woman took the most horrible thing I think you can imagine, the loss of a child, and the loss of a child in the most brutal, horrible public way. And is still out there, like, helping people at risk. So, I by no means think I'm a good person, but I try. And I think that's all you can ask of anybody, is try to be the person you want to be. So
I think you're a kind person. I think you're a compassionate person.
Thank you. I wasn't fishing, but thank you. I appreciate that.
No, I mean, I think those affirmations are important sometimes to say, because how often really in a conversation with somebody does someone say that to you? I mean, really.
Hopefully that'll change after all this. Hopefully all this Corona stuff is making us more empathic for one another. I think, I was the other day I was talking to my shrink, and he's in Boston. It's all online because there's like a waiting list. There's like a waiting list for like a Harley Davidson to get a shrink in Los Angeles. And he asked me how I was doing, and I said, better than most, I think, because I've been able to counsel my friends who are like, I'm just having a really bad day. Like, well, that's going to happen. I think we're all on an 8 to 10 day cycle where every 10 days we're going to have a day where you wake up and you feel crappy, and you don't know why. Nothing bad happened, but it's just the absorbing of the cumulative background stress that we all have, the uncertainty, the frustration. It's just a matter of, I've had to give myself small victories. So it's like, if I'm going to go outside, I have to have showered and brushed my teeth. If I'm going to, I'm going to do this. It's just, and those things, because we don't know what's going to happen with this virus. So to think about it is a way to just drive yourself crazy. So it's little things like, oh, today I have this Zoom call, so I can structure whatever my schedule is around that. And it's just letting yourself be okay with that, and letting yourself feel. And I think it's been really interesting to especially watch my male friends who've never dealt with this deal with this now, because I think a big problem with our society is that we don't allow men to be physical and emotional with other men for fear of the gayness of it. And we're seeing that come home to roost. We're seeing, because I grew up in the Midwest, so I know it. I know the buckle down, hold the emotions in, you're not allowed to cry sort of thing. And now I'm the complete opposite. Now I just have diarrhea of the mouth, and will tell you everything about me. So
feels like you've been like that way since the first day I met you. But
if you had known me in college, you would be amazed.
So you mentioned talking to a shrink. I just pretty recently just started seeing a therapist again. Actually, I hadn't seen one with any consistency for since high school. And I'm actually finding it to be very helpful. Have you been talking to a therapist for a long time?
No, I haven't. It was been about 3 years I've had my therapist. It just got to, like, there was a point in like 2017 where I was just like, I had like this 2 week, I had my very first and thus far only anxiety attack, which was literally like thinking you had a heart attack. My left arm was numb and sweating and all that. And it was just like, once again, it was the cumulative of living in the world right now, living in Trump's America in 2017. I'm glad it happened then, because if it happened now, I'd be, chewing the leaves off the fence at the state mental hospital. But so I just started talking to someone, and it was great, because having someone who doesn't know you, who just lived the first session I had with him, I talked the whole time. He just listened, and it was so instantly just freeing and just great to get this. It's kind of why I'm so open with posting on Facebook and stuff. Just getting it out of your head, manifesting it elsewhere, to use a really Oprah-y word, helps, because it makes it real and takes it out of you, because we are so good at beating ourselves up. It's the only thing Americans do more than create unnecessary drama is beat themselves up. And a friend of mine told me about a year ago, he said, you need to treat yourself with the respect with which you treat your friends. And I had never thought of it that way, because you have to treat your friends want to be around you, obviously, because they like you and they love you and they care about you. There's something about you that is good, and it's so easy to not embrace that. And it's not about being arrogant. It's just about saying, I'm sort of worth being here, and just getting out of your own way. And that's the hardest thing to do as an adult, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think so many of us, we spend all this time trying to figure out why some days you feel good, some days you feel bad, why, okay, I'm heavier than I was before, or I'm drinking more, so whatever, like, this is what's making me feel not as good. You try to kind of diagnose, like, this is why it's happening. But really, at the end of the day, you don't really know why any of the things are making you feel the way you feel. You're just guessing. And so the things you can do if you want to actively try to feel better are things just like you're talking about, where you realize, what, if I consistently do this one thing, this might help. It won't hurt. So I'll just add things, and in your case, it's like, you telling yourself that, reminding yourself of that does go a long way. I think that's pretty meaningful, actually.
And also too, a really, really nice thing happened the other day. Someone who I've worked with, who I haven't talked to in a while, the last time I saw her, we were out at a group dinner, and she was asking about medication, because I take Zoloft. And I talked about how I was nervous when I first started doing it, thinking I was going to be like, I was going to be Jack Nicholson after the electroshock therapy. I was going to kill my muse. And it's been great. It was, if anything, it was like a noise filter on an old dial-up. It just got rid of the noise, and I've been more productive and I had minimal side effects. And that was like a year and a half ago. Then I got a text from her 2 days ago saying, I don't know if you remember, but you spent a couple hours that dinner walking me through this, and I'm finally doing it, and I wouldn't have done it without you. So thank you so much. And I was like crying, because I was like, oh, I didn't, I was just answering questions. And to have that help someone be more proactive, especially when dealing with mental health, because when you get strep throat or you break your leg, it's easy to go to the doctor. But when you're having internal issues that are invisible, there's a whole weakness thing, and a whole, we used to call it being, you used to be a witch if you had schizophrenia back in the day. So there's all this, there's all this leftover baggage about weakness and mental illness. And my general practitioner told me, he said, if you had strep, I would give you penicillin. Having anxiety is a chemical thing, so I would give you this chemical. They're the same thing. We've got to stop treating it like you choose to be sad. That's not it. So
it's really interesting. Yeah, I've in definitely moments, depressed moments, I've thought about that. I had a day week or two ago that was just like unbelievably depressing. Like just like one of those days. Don't really know why exactly that particular day. And I shared it on Twitter. I never post about stuff like that on Twitter. I mean, I'm just, not because I'm scared to. It's not usually what I use my platform for.
Sure.
And I said, like, this is how I'm feeling, and I want everybody to know that it's okay to feel that way, because I know it'll pass in a day or just more, a couple days, and it's okay to feel this way. But somehow I want to put this out there. And it was like the most interaction on a tweet I've gotten in like months.
Yeah.
I mean, not like you should have to tweet about fucking Star Wars being garbage to get that kind of interaction.
And what's great about it is, with our, whatever you want to call us, DB, FE list celebrities, when you put it out there, and someone who follows you on Schmoedown or follows, the Action Anatomy and that sort of thing, when they say that helped me, hearing you talk about it made me feel better, there's nothing. That's the biggest compliment you can get, because because once again, the thing about about this virus that I hope will change for the better is we realize we're all in this together, and so
I mean, I think you were definitely in that high, that D class, because you've won an Eisner. I'm definitely somewhere a little further down, a little closer to the back five.
Your grandfather invented Viagra, right?
That's true.
So,
okay, I have that claim to fame, but
just by default, you've affected more lives.
when you talk about kind of having those feelings, those dark days, do you put that stuff directly into your work, into your writing? Do you channel? Like, do you use your art to get through it?
I don't use it specifically as therapy for those things, but I certainly draw upon those things. Like when I was writing Batwoman, I really wanted to explore. I wanted her to go to a psychiatrist, because in the lexicon of her myth, her twin sister, she thought, was dead. Her mother was killed when she was in front of her when she was a kid. She was in the army. She was raised by an army brat dad. She's a lesbian who got kicked out of the army because she was honest about don't ask, don't tell. And she's a superhero. That's a lot of stress. There's a lot of PTSD. And I wanted to explore that. And so, a lot of the stuff her shrink said to her is stuff that was said to me, and that sort of thing. I didn't go fight crime, of course, and I'm definitely not a lesbian, but there were the similar things. But I try to put stuff in there. I think you have to. I think even if it's not direct stuff, you have to put some of your own soul into your writing, or it comes off as an instruction manual.
I mean, I grew up reading so many versions of these characters. Marvel mostly was what I grew up with, but not the best writing, not stories and comic books that were great. A lot of the '90s stuff that I read, a lot of the Image stuff, and a lot of the stuff where artists thought they knew how to write. Not to say that some artists don't, because they do, but a lot of that generation, they're just terrible. They're so bad. You go back and it's funny if you go back and you look at a lot of that stuff from the '90s, the stuff that so much of the myth of what superhero comics became for people, or superhero movies. I mean, so many of those stories are based on absolutely terrible stories. A lot of that '90s X-Men stuff is awful. There's just so much bad. I mean, all the Rob Liefeld stuff, all the X-Force stuff, pretty much everything with Cable, a lot of the Deadpool stuff.
Well, Deadpool became the character of the movies when Joe Kelly started writing it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Joe Kelly's the one that made him from just a character with a cool name into a character that actually was something other than a cipher.
Yeah.
But yeah, the '90s, I almost stopped reading comics in the '90s because back then there was such a boom and there was so much gold to be had in them their hills that if you could hold a pencil, you were drawing a comic book. You look at some of these comic books that big publishers were publishing, and it's like, how did this person get a job drawing this book?
Yeah, well, I know, and also you look at that era. Something I think a lot of people don't understand is that you go look at I don't know, Brigade #1 or some Image book or one of those, and they're it's a 1 million copy print run. 7 million copies they printed of X-Men, the Jim Lee X-Men one, with the 6 covers, and 7 million. Today, if Marvel prints 40,000 or 50,000 of a book, it's a lot of copies. 100,000 big. That's huge. That's a big success.
The only books that are usually consistently 100,000s are Batman, some of the Hickman stuff. But it's become, it is funny because you look at some of these copies of things that sold in the millions. Remember the Max, the Sam Keith thing?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 100%.
That sold millions and millions and millions of copies. And where are they now? I mean, I've been to conventions where there were boxes by the free giveaway table, boxes of the Jim Lee X-Men 1. Because retailers bought so many of them, they're just for free because they're not. It's even to a smaller extent, the Death of Superman. You still hear, I'm going to sell this Death of Superman. It's not worth anything. It's worth $6.
Worth $10. Spawn number 1 is finally worth $30. Spawn number 1's finally worth $30.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy.
Hey guys, we're taking a quick breather here in the middle of the episode. As I mentioned from the onset, we had a little bit of a flub with our internet connection here, so this is a little intermission, a break in programming. If you guys haven't already checked it out, please tune in to Nerds in Suits Live, 7 p.m. Mondays here on this channel. We're doing a bunch of really cool stuff on there, some goal-setting challenges. It's a very, very positive space and something I've been enjoying a lot. So thanks for watching, thanks for listening to this episode, and we return to the interview with Marc Andreyko now. So we're back for part 2. I changed my jacket. I changed my shirt. Still kind of functionally similar, but it's all black now. That's going on.
That's the metaphor for the world right now.
Yeah, it's the metaphor for the world. So how's Marc Andreyko feeling day 2? Day 2 of this grueling interview, of this cross section of your psyche.
Well, it's my psyche's pretty shallow, so it's not a deep dive. And I'm just glad to be talking to somebody that's not my dog or the television. So
I feel that, man. I feel that. Well, I know I seem to remember yesterday we were trying to kind of have a conversation about comic book collections, just as we were kind of cutting out a little bit. And what I was saying was I have all these old Iron Man comics, but aside from all the other crap, I think they're the main things I've got. Maybe a few key issues here and there. I think I have First Punisher. I might have a few other. If
you have the First Punisher, if you have Amazing Spider-Man 129,
I do.
In good shape, that's worth some money.
It's okay. It's beat up. When I was a kid, so what happened with me when I was a little kid, I loved comic books, and I worked at a comic book store in my neighborhood for store credit. And they used to have these comic conventions in Seattle, but they were little. I'm talking, 2 rooms, only basically just vendors selling mostly comic books, a few toys. They'd bring in a few artists. In fact, probably every once in a while would get brought out to a smaller thing like that, I would imagine, because they would happen all over the country, and they're right.
Occasionally,
they'd bring in a couple artists and writers.
Mostly, if I was local, it was easier because because for some of those smaller shows, bringing somebody out, you got to make sure they sell tickets.
Right. Right. So I would go and I'd work the conventions, and there was always like some Silver Age vendors, and I would look for really beat up copies of key issues because I wanted the old stuff, but I didn't have any money. So like my Iron Man 1 is like around Iron Man, it's traced in ballpoint pen. It's like somebody did it. It doesn't really look bad, but I think I paid $50 for it when I was a little kid. I think my Tales of Suspense 39 has a pretty big chunk of the cover missing. My first Punisher is actually in probably decent shape, but never graded. I mean, who knows? I was getting all the cheapest ones I could. So anyway, but my question to you is on that subject. So as far as those old comic books, you talked about stuff you had as a kid. Why didn't you hold on to that stuff? I feel like you would have had the foresight as a comic book guy to know that.
Well, in my sophomore year of college, I spent a semester in Italy, and I sold all my Spider-Mans to pay for that. So that was absolutely worth it, especially since I was doing it with my best friend, and he's since passed. So it was a nice memory. But if I did have all the Spider-Mans that I had back then in the conditions that they were in, they'd be worth upwards of $450,000.
You had a pretty good run of the old stuff.
I had everything, Amazing Fantasy 15 up.
Wow.
I had a number 2 with the Vulture that would probably be a 9.6 if it was graded today.
Wow, and I had a really nice one.
Yeah, the staples weren't rusted. The gloss was still on the cover. Any sort of defects were publishing defects, so those don't really count if it's like a little rolled from printing and stuff. And I also had the first appearance of the Green Goblin in Spider-Man 14 that was probably even better than that. And that one alone is probably, in the condition I had it in, because I think it was a copy that was never read. Because there were a couple that I bought from, you see them, back in the day, you could see them in garage sales and find gems like that.
Yeah.
And, but you can always look back on something and say, oh, I wish I had that now. Would I rather have the money now, or would I rather have, a year's worth of memories with a friend who's no longer with us? It's an easy trade.
Yeah, it's an easy choice, of course. Yeah, those memories. And I'm sure, like the memory of having collected those Spider-Man comics and when you got them and how excited you were, those are probably valuable memories enough. Anyway.
And truthfully, if I have a comic book that was worth $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, I'm never going to read it. I'm going to seal I'm going to seal it in plastic and buy a reprint, because if I have to read a comic book with tweezers and cotton gloves in a humidity controlled room, why would I read that? Well,
that's one thing I've never totally understood about the whole graded comic book thing, is that you get this really nice copy and you put it in this case, you seal it up. You're never going to touch it again. It's going to stay in this fucking case forever.
I get it for old stuff. I get it for stuff where you're actually protecting it from the elements and stuff. I get it if you have like an Action Comics 5 or a Spider-Man 2 or something that's worth 4 or 5 numbers, or if it's something that means a lot to you. Like I wrote a comic book with Michael Chiklis for IDW years back called Pantheon, and he signed a copy and I signed a copy of this foil cover version, and somebody gave me a 9.8 sealed in plastic. I doubt it will ever be worth anything, but to have that there protected and see, but I don't know. But to me, in general, grading and, slabbing comics that you read today is like going to the grocery store and saying, oh, look, Totino's Pizza has new font on their box. I better save this and never eat it.
Yeah, totally.
It doesn't make any sense, but it is what it is. So,
yeah, people do it all the time. Yeah, so your career in comic books, do you feel like as a writer, as a creative, that you associate most with comic books? Is that like the place, or do you feel like you kind of as a writer, script writing, all of it's sort of the same to you?
Well, probably I'm mostly known for the comic book stuff. The comic book shaped my life obviously in immense, powerful ways. I don't think of myself as a comic book writer alone, but It took me 30 years to be able to call myself a writer. So, my issues with labels and understanding of them is very particular to my psychosis, as it were.
A lot of people who are watching this episode now probably are pretty familiar with you from the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. I think it's a place that you kind of got to branch into a new audience with that show, and that show for you. And do you find that the fans, the Schmoedown fans, are more passionate than any fans like in your writing career that you had met before that?
They're certainly more, in the best possible way, aggressive, in the sense, like I was just at the store the other day mask, baseball cap,
Yeah.
sunglasses, and somebody goes, "Are you Marc Andreyko?" And I'm like, "Oh my god, I'm getting served legal papers. I don't know why, but I'm getting served legal papers." And it was just, it was, I don't want to say just a fan, but it was a fan. It was this guy, this 22-year-old kid who's like, "Oh man, I can't wait. I hear you're coming back." Blah, blah, blah. I was like, and it's really nice. It's very nice to do something that you like that other people seem to like.
You still love the Schmoedown? You still really enjoy doing it?
I enjoy doing it. There, like anything, like any family, there are things that bug you and things you don't like. But that's just part of. Anytime you're in a relationship with more than one person, there's going to be things that bug you. Hell, I want to move out on myself sometimes. So, but it's great. I made a bunch of really great friends. The older you get, the less you are actively looking to add to your friend group in general, just because friends are family and family is exhausting in the best possible way. But I made so many great friends. I haven't made this many friends with people that I'm going to see for the rest of my life since my group of friends in college. And it's been really, really lovely.
I was rewatching your post-match interview after you won the title with Snyder, and I remember watching it in the first place, and you start crying a little when you're actually talking about exactly that topic, the specifics of all the wonderful people that you've met. Is that the thing, do you think, with Schmoedown that makes you the most? You get to be the most sentimental? Is that it's the relationships? It's not the winning or losing or the live or any of that?
Well, nobody likes to lose. That's just if you like losing, you're probably not going to live very long as a human being. It's just every day going to pouring a bowl of cereal is a championship match for some people. So but it's just been great. It's been a bunch of really great people and a bunch of with a base of shared interests in film, obviously, but different personalities, different ages, different groups. It's just been really lovely. And once I figured out how to play the game and get into all that, the wrestling stuff that we do, it opened up doors. Because, like I said, I think we didn't actually have a long conversation until I think it was Sam Levine's birthday party like 3 years ago, and you and I sat at the bar for like an hour and a half and just talked. And afterwards, I was like, wow, I really like Ben. Not that I didn't like you, but I had never had a conversation with you other than the dick measuring when we're like, oh, I'm going to kick your ass. Oh, you're stupid. All the smack talk over, and like you and Drew Guy are like two of my favorite people in the world. That's one of the frustrating things about this virus thing right now is that we used to see each other every week or 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And you don't realize how much you miss that sort of thing until it's gone. It's just taken for granted. So, yeah, I love doing the Schmoedown. I definitely, I wouldn't get as upset as I sometimes do if I didn't really care about it. You can't get mad about something you don't really care about.
Yeah, I mean, those moments, those frustrating moments, they're hard. I pride myself in being a pretty calm person in real life and pretty conflict averse. Don't really get bothered by a lot. And Schmoedown's one of the few things I've done in my life that when it doesn't totally go in a way that I feel is fair or just, it's very hard to not let that get the best of you.
Oh, absolutely. And it's almost like it's part of the emotional reaction is expected. I know Christian doesn't, want us to get seriously angry and stuff, but he likes to poke the bear a little, and it happens. And and there have been times when I've been looking back irrationally angry, and there's been times I've been absolutely right. And that's just the way it is. We're all right and wrong in equal measure, and it's just a matter of ultimately it comes down to a great love for this group of people and the game, and all that other stuff is incidental.
Yeah, 100%. So we do here on Nerds and Suits. I open it up to platinum patrons, certified platinum nerds as we call them, and they get to submit questions for our guests. Okay. So I do have some questions for you that have been submitted. Dr. Megs, call sign Quinn in the Action Army. She is a diamond patron in the Nerd Network. Megs,
so
Dr.
do Megs. Do I have to do that?
What, the salute? No, you do it. We do a tie straight in the Nerd Network as well.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Yeah, even though I don't wear ties. I appreciate you with the cue. That's good. Meg's question for you is, what is your most meaningful memory in the Schmoedown?
Gosh, winning over the Shire Wolves was a lot. That was like good, bad, because I love those ladies and beating them. There was just so much going on there, and I think it was Dwayne actually got a picture of me after it was over. I was like sitting there, kind of looking at the belt and kind of just the amount of what we do is not MMA, but there was when you're done competing, there was a release and of all the adrenaline goes away and your fatigue catches up to you. And I think that's why I was so emotional, because it was just like, even if you don't build this up in your own mind, it's still a championship belt and it still has resonance. And to play two of my favorite people in the world and to win was a mixed thing. And I think I said this before the match. I said, even if we had lost, and generally when I lose, as long as it's not a blowout, losing's going to happen. Losing is more important than winning and shaping you as a human being. And I just want to put on a good show. And sometimes you get ahead of yourself, but that's probably one of the best. And I think also too, the saying goodbye to the Shire Wolves was really, really a nice cathartic, important thing for the fans and for us. I mean, I was shocked that I get as emotional as I do about this stuff. But as I'm getting older, I'm getting sappier and sappier. So I cry at a Pringles commercial. So.
Well, I think that you mentioned the thing about making friends as you get older, and I actually think that that's a metaphor for a lot of things in your life. I don't think it's just like your relationships. It's kind of your relationship to anything. It's your relationship to people, but it's also your relationship to new interests. It's your relationship to committing to new things, the way you live your life, any kind of change. The older you get, I think the more set in your ways you are, and it's a little harder to get yourself to do much of anything. So when something like the Schmoedown comes along, for me, I love it because it's sort of the perfect creation of the things that I loved as a little kid. Like I loved knowing a lot about movies, and I loved the idea of competing, but I wasn't really an athlete. I didn't like sports until I was much older. So getting to be like, I'm so smart, let me win at life by knowing about movies. It's like the most awesome thing in the world.
I'm kind of glad that I don't have much athletic prowess, because if I did, I would probably have blown out my knee or played beyond and done permanent damage to myself, because I am hyper competitive. I have some people that won't play celebrity with me. I get like, that's not working, new clue. I get really, really hyper competitive. And I would be one of those. If I was a football player, I'd be those ones that has CTE and is like, chair staring out, because in spite of myself, I try to, I get hyper competitive, and it's not something I'm necessarily proud of. But when you do that, it's like if a football player is playing with an injury and you don't feel that you hurt yourself until after the game is over,
Yeah, I think I totally agree with you. It's hilarious sometimes. The outside looking in, people see us get so invested and competitive at this particular thing.
Yeah.
But once you're in it, it's hard to see it in any other way. I figured when they asked you about your most meaningful memory, you were going to say the Alba Elba situation. I figured that was where you were going to go immediately.
No, that's your most meaningful memory, because you can pile on that. And let me tell you this: I've watched all the Schmoedown since this thing happened. And there have been many, more than 3 times, my friend, when misspellings and mispronunciations. And let's not forget what was the one where you're like, well, she's a weatherman, or what was the one where you were
against Viviani, and I
she's a sports agent. She works in an office where people do things with sport. I was like, what is he doing? How is he convincing people that this is the right answer?
Well, see, I think that's the thing about that's different is like, so I bring up the Alba situation just to fuck with you, because it's gonna be one of my favorite memories.
I still beat you, so
it'll be one of my favorite memories till the end of time, especially as long as you and I remain friends, which I hope is a long time. But I agree, there are so many ridiculous rulings over the years, and that's just the nature of any young sport. But I do think there's a difference between ridiculous rulings and understanding how to manipulate the game.
Absolutely.
I would even.
Absolutely. I mean, I learned from you when Snyder and I played the Paddington 2, and the question was, their answer was right, but the question was wrong. It was about the mask. It was what character played by Jim Carrey appeared in a graphic novel, and he didn't appear in a graphic novel, and that's not splitting hairs. So I knew the answer was right, but when the question got thrown out, it delayed the game and it threw them off their rhythm.
Yeah, so I think one thing fans don't recognize about when they watch the game is that they don't realize that even the most veteran players, you don't always have the wherewithal to realize when you have an opportunity to challenge something. It's actually one of the nuances of the game that I think fans don't pick up on. So like a good example of this is you mentioned the thing against Bibiani, right? That's me literally trying to talk my way into a right answer, because I was right on the edge of it. The answer's close to right, but the one I gave is not exactly correct. And so I kind of try to talk my way into it, and it works because it's live. and that's it's a tactic. Obviously, when the Alba Elba situation, I think you said, like, if this goes the other way, I'm walking out of here. I'm done. And that's an aggressive thing to say, but it also the guys on the table hear that. You know what I mean? And if it's an empty threat and you don't walk out, fine. But they're also thinking if you do walk out, what happens?
I would have actually. I was at such a place right then and there. I was like, the fact that they're even humoring this with the history of the game is infuriating to me. And it wasn't. Would I have reacted that way on a different day? No, because we also, what fans don't realize is when you're playing, you're bringing in whatever's happened to you that day.
In that day, Yep.
This isn't like professional sports where we go train and are all in a hotel together, and it's a very, very organized thing. We're all living our lives until we're in the studio. So there have been times when things have bothered me or bothered other people that on any other time, 10 minutes later, might not have bothered them. And that's what makes the game fun. Am I proud of some of the times when I got snarky? No, but it's also entertaining. And we also know, for the most part, when we're snarky with each other, we all really do care about each other. It comes from a place about the game, not about the person. And it comes about the place of, it's like a bunch of 12-year-olds playing war, that sort of mentality. You want to win, but when it's done, you go home and have pizza with your friends.
Yeah, you got a deep breath and move on from it.
It's amazing how much emotion gets caught up in the moment. It never ceases to amaze me how much where I'll be like, what? Or I'll be so excited about something. That's what's glorious about it.
Yeah, I remember in Atlanta against Dan, it gets to the last question, my 5-pointer, and they asked me the heavyweights question, and it's in the category of Judd Apatow. And I looked back at this the other day thinking about this, because if I had the wherewithal in that moment to say, you're asking me about a film that was written by this director, and his name is in the list of categories that we get in the director's column. So I studied Judd Apatow as a director, and there's no precedent set for you asking me about a movie that a director wrote that he didn't direct. There just isn't a precedent for it. He's a director, so you're going to be asked by the films he directed. Now, I may have lost the challenge. Probably I would have. However, later in the season, they asked another question about the Coen brothers, similar thing. Once they had done it twice, the challenge is out the window. But if I had had the wherewithal in that moment to challenge it, just maybe I could have overturned it. And I think that's the kind of thought process you have to have. And I think some players do, and some players just don't. It's hard to do it in the moment.
It's hard though. I mean, the second time I lost to Bibiani, his 3-point question or something was it was his 5-point question, and it was about Anchorman 2. And he said Anchorman 2. And I should have challenged it because the title is Anchorman 2, The Legend Continues.
Yeah.
But that's why managers serve a purpose, because it's hard to juggle all that stuff when you're in the heat of the moment. It's really, really, really difficult. It's why I do like now, I hope they keep the fast money version instead of the buzzers.
Oh, the speed round, yeah.
It's for the speed round, because I think that still involves a reflexive sort of thing, because the quick time limit. But it's also the physical hitting of the button, the buzzers, is a different group of muscles than the memory and stuff, and it's sort of like patting your belly and rubbing your head or whatever at the same time. So I think that's the speed round thing, or the list thing, is more fair and more in keeping with the game than the buzzers, because buzzers, I've practiced with them. I'm pretty good at them. It's just reflex, and and those questions are generally pretty easy. So you can buzz in. So it's like when you watch Jeopardy, when you see the people that know how to do the buzzer. Once you know how to do the buzzer, the questions become secondary. So I hope they shake it up a little, because I would love to play that way, because I think it's really fun.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Obviously, I have to win a singles match or a teams match here, my next 2, to get a shot at another title. But I'm hoping to get a shot at both. So that is. I'm just hoping I don't
lose today, because I would like to keep playing.
I wonder. So this will air tomorrow on Friday, and I wonder when your actual match that you're going to play is going to air.
It airs a couple of weeks from now. But it has been announced, so you don't have to edit any of that thing out. So
yeah, I'm excited. Are you feeling ready? Are you feeling warm?
I'm as ready as I get. I mean, after we're done with this, I'll take my dog for a walk, and I'll go grab a cup of coffee, and I'll probably watch an old Schmoedown match just to sort of get in gear. But for me, and I think we touched on this before, for me, knowing, I do a little bit of research, but not incredible amounts, because there's just, this happens. Sometimes there's things you just don't know. There's no way to know everything, and there's going to be things you don't know, and there's going to be things that you don't justify. You can't justify devoting the time to. I am not going to know who the second AD on Sandlot was ever.
Yeah, right.
It's just never going to happen. And that's not an insult to Sandlot, by the way. That's just personal taste. There are things that that all of us get stuck with. But I think I'm in good shape. I think Matt's a really great competitor, Matt Adichie. I think he's still a little bit wonky with how the game is played for someone who's been playing it as long. And this is his first singles match, I think, in a very long time. I think since like early 2017. So but I like Matt. I respect Matt. Like I said, as long as I don't lose by more than 3 or 4 points, losing sucks. But as long as it's a competitive game, the only sports metaphor I ever use that I think I use correctly, and feel free to correct me here, is I don't like a Super Bowl when the one team scores 42 points in the first quarter and then it's 42-0. I like a game that's like 42-42 and then somebody fumbles the ball and they get a field goal. That's exciting.
Yeah, right. I agree completely. Are you what? So let's see. He wouldn't be able to watch this, and not even that he would, because I don't think he's going to study, research you. But so you're putting 2 things on the wheel against him. Have you?
The 80s and horror.
Okay, that's pretty in keeping with that.
Because 80s I lived through. I think after Drew McWeeny is the champion of the 80s. I think I'm a distant second to him as far as knowledge of those movies, because that was when I saw everything, and like type labels for my VHS tapes with running times and all that nerdy stuff. Can you believe I'm still single? But and horror is fun, and those are 2 things that he's not good at that I've looked at, and it wasn't much to strategy. It wasn't like finding things that I like and that he's not good at. It wasn't strictly going after things that people aren't good at, because I've seen people do that, pick categories that they know the other person or team isn't good at, but they're not necessarily good at. So you got to make sure that if someone gets a slice that you like, that you can answer the questions when they don't, because otherwise it's just wasted time.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's an interesting point. I've seen players do it too. I mean, and I've gotten pretty dialed in now with the way that I do it. Like, I don't take that chance really anymore unless I know exactly how it's going to turn out. One of the earliest examples, in fact, maybe my first example ever of studying a player, was you. And I put action adventure on the wheel, I remember, against you based on research. And then when it happened, I didn't really take advantage of it. I kind of fucked up. I kind of blew it in the category.
Billy Bob Thornton?
Yeah, I fucked up in the category, and I think I was wound a little too tight. It was early in my singles career. You were the first real player I had really played.
Oh, well, that's high praise. Thank you. But that happens. When I played Dan, I had spinner's choice or opponent's choice, and I picked Tim Burton for him. And it just happened. And it just happened to be 4 not really incredibly difficult Tim Burton questions, because there are difficult Tim Burton questions. You also, what fans also don't realize is when you pick a category on the wheel, you have to figure out how many times has this category been asked, because the questions get deeper, especially if it's someone with not a huge filmography. If it's Paul Thomas Anderson or Kevin Smith or Quentin Tarantino, they don't have huge bodies of work. So it's going to get deep dives into things where you absolutely have had to see the movie multiple times or be a complete devotee. I mean, I would love to see Kevin Smith compete in a Kevin Smith match and see if he can answer all the questions. Because some of those, I mean, I've been asked trivia.
I was going to say, I'll bet you in the Kevin Smith match, I'd be shocked if Kevin Smith's not on the wheel. I would have to think they'd put it on the wheel for fun.
Because I've been asked questions about stuff I've written about characters, and I'm like, I don't remember writing that. And you have to like fake it, because you don't want to, it's not that you don't care and you don't want to, but you don't want to insult someone who's been affected in a positive way by your work. But I can, I've written thousands of pages of comic books in the past 2.5 decades.
Yeah.
I'm deeply moved and flattered beyond words when something affects someone. But when someone asks me about something I wrote 18 years ago, I'm like, did you like it? Okay, good. It's hard. It's hard,
Well, speaking of which, I have a few other questions here. So our next one is up from a certified double diamond sergeant. So a tie straight in there to you, Charlotte.
Is that a tie straight and a salute, both?
Yeah, well, almost a lot of the patrons are patrons of both Nerds and Suits and Action. But so I'm trying to get better at doing the whole, like, you're a double diamond general, you're like an infinity sergeant. It's hard for me to remember it all and do an interview live at the same time.
I'm a gold star gay.
Yeah, that's pretty much how I'm going to bill you in the title for this episode. So I'm glad you gave me permission.
Feel free. I've been called worse even today.
So Charlotte Gherkin, her question is this. Hi, Mark. You're bringing up Love is Love on Action Guys prompted me to go out and buy it. So thank you. I found it amazing. My question is, do you have any other ideas or plans for any kind of follow-up to it or putting together another collaboration of impactful short stories like that? Sincerely, Charlotte.
Yeah, actually, I'm in the beginning stages of, I guess, what they say in presidential politics, of an exploratory committee of doing a fifth anniversary book and opening it up to deal with some Black Lives Matter and trans rights things, because I've said this probably ad nauseum on the different podcasts I've done, but the thing about the coronavirus is it's the great equalizer. We're all in this together, and seeing the shift in protests, seeing those. I mean, I live in Hollywood, so the week of those George Floyd protests, there were probably 200,000 people walking up and down the street a block from my house, and it was people of all races, creeds, colors, orientations, physical abilities, all arm in arm. There was no trash. There was no violence. So I would love to tap into that and then expand for the fifth anniversary edition. Some of the charities give to some trans outreach programs, because I don't know if the average person doesn't probably know this, but the number 1 and 2 causes of death in the trans community are murder and suicide. Yeah. So I don't know many trans people, but the trans people that I do know are some of the strongest, bravest, most insightful people I know. So any time to give back, because I do come from a place of privilege. I might be gay, but I'm a white guy in America, and I have privilege that I don't know I have. So I just want to give back. I do. It sounds very fake and very like a fortune cookie, but if I can make this planet even an iota a little more pleasant than it was when I got here, I'll take that as a win.
Well, yeah, I know you have made it more pleasant for a lot of people, Charlotte included. Charlotte is a trans woman. She actually was on the episode of Action Guys. She had made a comment, which is very exciting.
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
A lot of things you said. And Charlotte, through the action stuff, which has been really cool, and through the Nerds and Suits stuff, I don't know if you know, I started doing this goal setting stuff. Did I tell you about this at all? The 30-day goal setting thing? Mm-hmm. So it's a thing we started doing here on Nerds and Suits. That's really interesting. You've read the whole thing about like 30 days to make a habit, 30 days to break one, right? Mm-hmm. So my theory was, what if for 52 weeks, every single Monday, you came up with a new 30-day goal, right? And it could be something tiny. It could literally be flossing every night before bed, making your bed, waking up at a certain time, whatever. Could be more meaningful. But what if you did it every single week and you stuck with them? So at the end of 30 days, you'd have effectively 4 going at once. 1 would rotate out. You put a new one in. The end of a year, if you stuck with it, how much improved do you think your life could be if you really stuck with it, right? Because some of them will just stick. And so I talked about it on a live stream, and I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to try this. And I encouraged any of the patrons here on the channel to send in their goals, and I'd shout them out if they stuck with their goals. And I've got 22 people now who are sending me weekly goals.
That's great.
Charlotte being one of them, which is really exciting for me, because it's keeping me accountable, but it's also very cool to be, during this time, especially during COVID, to be working with people who actually want to do something small to change and improve their life.
Now you just got to get me those 3 movies to watch.
You're right. You're absolutely right. I got to get them. Oh, fuck, so many things on the plate. Weatherman. Just start with Weatherman. Watch it 3 times. Now you'll probably hate Weatherman. I love it. I love it.
Is that Taya Leone in that one?
No, that's The Family Man. The Weatherman is.
Oh, the Weatherman's the Gore Verbinski movie, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's got some really good humor to it. I know why some people don't like it as much, but I like the script a lot. I find it to be very funny. I find Nick Cage to be pretty hilarious in it.
Did I give you Peggy Sue Got Married as one of your movies?
You did.
You'll love that. If you're a Nick Cage fan, you will love that movie, and it's a masterpiece. It's one of Coppola's best movies. I could watch that movie every day for the rest of my life. It's a really wonderful film.
Yeah, as soon as we're done here, I'll go and I'll find my last. Maybe I'll make Almost Heroes one of them. Get you one more, but so that is from Charlotte. There we have a couple more here. Our next one is going to be from John Lestrina, call sign #Ladies Night in the Action Army. John, who is a Diamond General here in the Nerd Network. It's for all of them. It's a salute and a tie straight. And,
Oh, it's both. Okay. So
yeah, we do. We try to do them both. So let me just pull this up here from John. I believe he was asking about your career as a writer, and if there was a character that you were ever interested in writing that you haven't written. I believe I'm going to confirm that right now. Yes, he says, do you have a dream character you would like to write, or possibly a project you passed on and regret?
I don't pass on a lot. I'm not in those echelons of getting saying, oh no, I don't have time for that. I've written basically every character I've wanted to. There are characters I've written in passing that I would love to have a chance to write. Like I would love to write an arc of Spider-Man just because that's how I learned to read. I would love to have it do an arc of a Batman book. Love to do a Superman arc. But as far as the big pantheon heroes, it would only be arcs because writing them on a monthly level, there's so many other things you have to worry about, especially if it's a character like a Batman or a Spider-Man. You're going to be tied into whatever the big event is, and you have to make sure that the character, when it appears, there's just so much technical stuff. It's kind of why I like when Scott Snyder and Tom King were writing Batman kind of in that book happened in a bubble. It was in the DC universe, but they didn't have to worry about what is the event of the week because there's much like Schmoedown with strategy. There's so many other challenges other than just the writing of these characters. So, but I have probably some of the big ones, and I would love to write Wonder Woman. I would love to do a real nice long run on Wonder Woman.
The Scott Snyder stuff, is that like the Court of Owls stuff?
Which one?
Or is that old?
Yeah, Scott Snyder wrote. Yeah, he wrote all the New 52 Batman, like 100 issues of it, and that
that stuff's good.
But that stuff sort of happened on its own. He wasn't like dealing with any big event stuff, which is always a plus if you can get away with it.
Yeah, next up we got one from Matty Gunner here, who is a Diamond General. Sins of the Father is one of my top 3 favorite Blade stories. Are there any specific moments from that you're particularly proud of to have written?
Oh, wow, that's a deep cut. For the unwashed amongst you, that was a prequel comic book for the original Blade movie.
Wow.
Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Back then it was superhero and comic book movies were rare. So to be able to be involved in something that was going to be attached to a movie, it wasn't like today, what is a superhero movie? I mean, it was Blade and then X-Men a couple of years later. It was fun because I'm also a huge Tomb of Dracula fan where Blade first appeared. The old Gene Cole and Marv Wolfman Tomb of Dracula book is, I jokingly call it the first Vertigo book, even though it was a Marvel book, because it was so, as a 12-year-old Catholic kid reading about Dracula and made him an anti-hero, it was so great. So to be even peripherally around that stuff was great. And it was fun. It was Blade fighting gangster vampires. So these vampires were sort of stuck in time. They were wearing their zoot suits and, Tommy guns and that sort of thing. So
our last question here is from 5-star Double Diamond General. Big time salute to you, Jeff Alterman, and Ty Straighten here, Quiz Show. His question to you is, hey, Mark, you've popped up in a lot of different shows on the internet over the last few years, movie fights, Schmoedown, podcast, etc. Which show appearance was your favorite experience?
Oh, gosh. Well, they're all so different. I know that sounds ridiculous and phony, but they're all different. Movie fights is different from Schmoedown, is different from Action Labs, is different from other people's podcasts. I generally like the ones that are more conversational, like this. You've heard me say this before, Ben, but I grew up watching Bob Costas on Later at 1:30 in the morning after Letterman, and he would always have guests on that weren't necessarily things I would gravitate to, but the conversations were always so interesting, and you felt like you were in the room. I don't like being talked at. I like being talked with. Both as a viewer and as a panel member. So I think anytime where it's like this, where you get to reveal more about yourself and let the fans see more of who you are and stuff, and being able to reach out to people, and being able to talk about things like mental illness or, writing process or something. And you never know what thing you say is going to help someone. And like I said before, it's a huge privilege to be able to change anyone's life for the positive. So these are the ones I like. The competition's fun, but these are the ones where, we could do a 4-hour one of these if we wanted to and probably not run out of stuff to talk about.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I was so excited to have you on. I felt like, I loved having you on the Action Guys. We got you for 2 hours, but I still felt like there was so much more that I wanted to talk to you about. So I'm glad we got to do this as soon as we did. I think we're running out of time here. I'm going to have to go in and staple these 2 episodes together. So I have to get in the editing room. Hopefully I don't leave too much on the cutting room floor. All of your honesty.
That could be DVD extras.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna thank you for coming by, Mark.
Sure.
Where can the folks find you if they want to find out what you're doing?
Well, my Schmoedown match will be in I think it airs in 3 weeks. I'm always on Facebook and Twitter, trying to get people to register to vote and help save the world. And there'll be some stuff announced. It's just stuff that's not in any position to be announced yet, but which is the lamest Hollywood BS in the world. I have many projects in development, but there are, a couple of them. It's just stuff
Yeah,
It's just
I know
stuff
what you mean.
it's not for me to say at this point in time. But if any one of them happens, it'll be pretty cool.
You love to do that Hollywood BS thing. That's like your favorite thing to do.
I hate it. I'm so bad at it. I'm not Tom Holland bad, because Tom Holland apparently just says stuff. But I'll say to friends like, you can't tell anyone, and then I realize I've told 50 people.
Yeah, right.
So
right,
it's
right.
like, yeah.
We had a buddy, Andrew and I, he's one of my best friends, who was the second AD on all of Avengers, in Endgame and Infinity War. He moved out to Atlanta, and he was out there for 2 years doing it, 2.5, almost 3 years. And we would talk to him all throughout the process, and just like, it was whatever, we'd try to get anything out of him. We could never get a single letter, not a word, nothing.
Well, Disney's like the Suicide Squad. They put a chip in you, and if you talk, your head explodes. I mean, they literally don't give Tom Holland full scripts because he's just so excitable and so affable and genuine that he can't help himself. It's like, and I have friends who've worked on those movies, actors and stuff, and they're like, they don't know the context of their scenes. I mean, Woody Allen did the same thing on his movies. He would give you the scenes you're in, and you wouldn't know what the movie was about, which to me seems counterproductive, but who's got a bunch of Oscars and who doesn't? So.
Yeah, right. He and I went out one night, like earlier, like I had fucking time. I don't remember when anything was anymore. We went out one night and got hammered drunk. And I'm pretty sure I remember him telling me something after the movies came out that was really cool. And then the next morning when I tried to remember, I couldn't remember it anymore. And I was like, no.
Disney roofied you. Never take a drink from anyone working on a Marvel film.
Yeah, right. So, guys, just one more time, by the way, if you're watching and you have not already done it, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Leave a comment below when the video is over. Comments on YouTube mean a lot more than you guys realize. They boost the algorithm. They help these videos shoot up so people watch them. We want all the people to hear all the good words coming out of Mr. Andreyko's mouth here. So please leave a comment, hit that like button, and, of course, hit subscribe. A big thanks to everybody for watching and listening, and a big thanks to you, Mark, for coming by and doing the show.
I look forward to the day when we're in the same room again, Benjamin.
I feel the same way. I feel the same way, sir.
Awesome.
All right. I am going to end the broadcast. Bye, guys.
Stay safe, everybody.
And with that, we wrap up yet another episode of a great conversation here on Nerds in Suits. So much fun to hang out with Marc Andreyko. I wish I could actually hang out with Marc Andreyko and be in person with him, but at least I get to work and interview my friends and feel like I have a social life. So thank you to all of you for listening to that. Thanks for watching that. And a big time shout out to all of my Double Diamond patrons here, certified on the Nerd Network. Double Diamond, we've got Thomas Gosselin, Doug Castle, Jeremiah Morris, Charlotte Gherkin, Pardis, Jessa Dawson, Philip Gustafson, Joseph Boros, and Jeff Alterman. I love you guys. Every single platinum and above patron, you can see your name scrolling there in the credits, so thanks to all of you as well. And just a general thank you to every single person who has supported Nerds in Suits, whether it's the Twitter, it's Instagram, it's YouTube, it's Patreon. I really appreciate everybody and all of your support. I did mention it once before, but please check out Nerds in Suits Live, 7 p.m. streaming on Monday nights. We're doing a lot of fun stuff over there. And yeah, just once again, guys, I appreciate you tuning in every week for the content. I will see you back next week with yet another episode of a great conversation here on Nerds in Suits. I straighten my tie to each and every one of you. Bye, guys.